I got pregnant with my second child. She would have been the first little princess of the family, so yeah, we were really excited. We said on the day, if she's got red hair, we was going to call her Rosa. If she's got brown hair, we was going to call her Grace. And if she had like blondie brown hair, we was going to call her Sadie. She had quite light hair, so we called her Sadie. I arranged to have the birth at Bolton Hospital. I went in and they decided to induce me at 36 weeks. When the contractions started, something just didn't feel right. I kept telling the midwives that I didn't feel right, something was wrong. I had an epidural and that didn't help. And they just kept telling me to push, so I did. And Sadie's head came out and her dad said, like, her head's purple, is that normal? The midwife was like, yeah, everything's fine. And then they realised that the cord was around her neck. The midwife held her up and said, here's your little girl, and we realised that she wasn't breathing. She had suffered brain damage because of the amount of time she'd been without oxygen. They were transferring her to Arrow Park, which they did early hours in the morning. We left 2 hours later in the ambulance, and on the way we got a phone call to say that she'd had a cardiac arrest. The doctor that was looking after Sadie said she had no brain activity at all. Bolton hadn't been honest with us. They knew that they'd done a brain scan at Bolton Hospital and they knew that she had no brain activity. But they said she wouldn't make it. So the best thing to do would be to turn off the life support machine. And then we called all our family and family came up. We turned off the life support machine. And he said that usually, babies in that condition would only last without the life support machine for 10 minutes at the most. But she didn't. She lasted like an hour and a half. So just proved she was trying to fight. There was something there, but she died in Arrow Park, yeah. I remember it happening, but it didn't hit me at all. Like, I remember being in the hospital and I rang one of my friends outside and I said they're turning off the life support machine. And then I went and got a Mars bar from the shop because I hadn't had anything to eat for 2 days. And I was just sat normally in the canteen eating a Mars bar. And even like when she passed away in my arms. And I remember screaming, but it wasn't me. It didn't register until I got back to my home, and then all the baby stuff that we'd bought and my family had tried to get rid of a lot of it, but that's when I realised that I'd come home without my baby. It was heartbreaking. She was the first girl. She was the first girl of the family and she was going to be absolutely spoiled, and my family just bought absolutely everything. She had everything she could have wanted. I look at like children that would be Sadie's age now, and I always look and I think, what would she look like now? I'd have 3 children running about. I wonder if her and her other siblings would get on. Stuff like that. It's still every day. I went down the route of putting a complaint in with the hospital first. Didn't even know that I was entitled to bring legal action, because these things do happen a lot, don't they? And then we went to the hospital and made a complaint. The meeting just wasn't good enough. They didn't give me any answers as to how it had happened, what had made the people making the mistakes. And I come away and I just thought it's not good enough. Their word wasn't good enough, and they didn't even apologise. They didn't say we're sorry. It wasn't like a life to them. Sadie was my daughter, it was like a statistic. We did start to hear that it had happened to a lot more people at the same hospital, and I just wanted people to be aware that it shouldn't happen. And it wasn't just about the other people knowing that what they were doing was wrong, what they did was wrong, their mistakes. It was about the hospital knowing that what they did was wrong. They needed to change the procedures, and only legal action would have done that. I genuinely do think it's the only thing that helped me through it. I really do. I think if I'd walked away and just let Sadie just be one of their numbers, I'd never have lived with it. I just couldn't have done. So to get help, get legal help, and make sure you deal with the grief, because I didn't for a very long time and it affected me quite bad. It's better now, like I can talk about it, still get upset, but I just think like every day's easier to get on with, whereas back then I just couldn't talk about it at all. This birthday we got a load of balloons, and me and the kids and our dad wrote letters, and then we let them off on the beach. And we always do the Chinese lanterns. Go down and buy something special. We buy her a present every year and put it on the grave.